Hello everyone, Manny here from Glasshammer Gaming and you're watching another roster review. As you're all aware, the Balanced Data Slate has dropped this past weekend and David has come up with a really cool Necron army that he wants to try because they got loads of buffs. All of it got the core keyword. Right, let's have a look what's in his list. So David's list is actually quite cool. It puts on a ton of pressure, believe me, and he's painted it really nicely as well. When you look up close, all the highlighting he's done on it looks really good. I could never do anything like this. So, first of all, he's got a patrol detachment. The whole army is relentlessly expansionist and eternal conquerors, meaning they can move 6 inches before the game, after you see who goes first. And also, they all have the objective secured ability, which is fantastic. It helps you play the mission in a really good way and lets you put on a massive amount of upfront pressure onto your opponent. So the patrol, first of all, is what it starts off with. There is a no slot in there, which is 2 crypto thralls, because for every cryptech you take in your army, a crypto thrall unit can take up no slot. So there is a unit of 2 crypto thralls in there. Then HQs, he's got a chronomancer, of course, with the prismatic obfuscation. And I don't know what that is, but David will explain it. And also he's got the Veil of Darkness. And then there's also a Catacomb Command Barge with the Eternal Madness Warlord trait and the Void Reaper. So he's got a really good weapon that ignores Feel No Pains and stuff like that. And -1 damage and stuff, ignores it all. And he's got Eternal Madness, which gives him 4 rerolls to wound, I believe, in combat, which is really good. Then he's got a unit of 5 Immortals, a unit of 5 Flayed Ones, and a unit of 5 Scorpic Destroyers. So a little bit of a mix in the patrol there. And then there's also an Outrider detachment. Again, relentlessly expansionist and eternal conquerors for the same buffs as the other detachment. There, again, in the no slot, there is a unit of 2 Crypto Thralls and also a Canoptek Plasmacite. So David's just going unit heavy here. Then he's got Anrakia the Traveller in there, who is an absolute beast. Gives +1 attack to everyone, which is really cool, especially now that they've all got the core keyword. Then we've got Illuminor Xerath, who can buff units. There is 2 more units of 5 Scorpic Destroyers. So David has now got 15 of these dudes, man. 3 units of 5 Scorpic Destroyers. Also, he's got 3 units of 5 Wraiths. So look at that, man. 30 models of that size with 3 wounds each and do really well in combat. You can see why this list is going to work. 15 Scorpic Destroyers, 15 Canoptek Wraiths, and then we end off nicely with 3 units of 3 Canoptek Scarab Swarms, which, you know, they play the mission and they're annoying to kill because they've got 4 wounds each base. So that's 12 wounds total across the unit that, you know, yeah, they're only tough as 3. They've only got a 6-up save, but you got to take those 12 wounds off somehow because they're objective secured. So they will come and steal objectives off you. And if you don't have objectives secured on there, you've got to get rid of these scarabs, not just also go into the objective. So I think it's a very well thought out list here by David. But, of course, I don't know exactly how everything in the list works. So I'm going to hand you over to David, and he's going to tell you how it all works and also what he struggles against and how you can tackle it.
So the way this list works is really cool. I was kind of tired of playing 60 warriors moving around the table, and I wanted something much more oppressive and mobile. And this is why the new core rule helps this list so much. I've gone up from 9 to really 15 Wraiths, 5-5-5, because with Relentlessly Expansionist, they can move 6 inches before the game, and with Eternal Conquerors, they're OPSEC. So what you do is you deploy them on the line, near a ruin somewhere, and if you go first, move 6 inches forward, then because I have a noble, I have command protocols, and you go Sudden Storm in the first turn most of the time because you don't need to shoot and do actions with this list because they normally shoot. So you go 6 inches before the game. Then, as long as when you move, you're next to a noble, you get Relentless March because it's for core units. So you move additional. So let's say Wraith, right? So they move 12 inches, 6 inches before the game, then 12 inches. That's 18. That's another one for Relentless March. That's 19 inches. And another one for Sudden Storm if they're still within 6 inches of a character when they move off, because you have to be within 6 to get the command protocol. So you move 20 inches before the game. And remember, when you deploy, you are 24, there's always 24 inches between you. So after you moved 20, you can still charge, or you can advance and just go onto the objectives because Wraiths are super resilient. And, you know, dealing with 15 Wraiths is super hard. And even if some armies have the capability to do it, you still have Scorpion Destroyers behind them who move 8 base, +1, that's 10, and 6 before the game, that's 16 inches. So they move as fast as my Ophidian Destroyers in the previous list did. And they, the oppressiveness and the threat of you moving up so far is huge. And then let's say, oh, I want to stop my opponent raising banners, but they have so much firepower, they will just kill off my Wraiths if I throw them forward, so I don't want to do that. Then you've got Scarabs. Scarabs move 10 inches base, +6 inches before the game, that's 16, +1 for command protocol, so they're gonna be moving 17 inches, because, 17 inches, 3 units of Scarabs. Scarabs are 45 points. They are OBSEC, they block the objective, that you cannot raise the banner, you cannot do vital intelligence, you cannot do anything, they can intercept. And if you lose them, fine, it's 3 small units. You use them to play the game, in the back of the board usually, but you still have Crypto Thralls, and you still have unit of Immortals, so they're not essential. If there's no artillery in the enemy opponent's army, then they're gonna be safe in the back, so you can utilize the Scarabs to be more aggressive. And it's just so much threat that most armies can deal with it. If you have a balanced army that has a little bit of combat and a little bit of shooting, you can probably kill a unit of Wraiths and a bit. And that's not great, because right behind them you've got 3 squads of Scorpion Destroyers, Sheras, Bargelord advancing up the board that cannot be targeted, hiding behind walls, playing the mission, and you have to come to them, which you really don't want to do. And then on top of that, you have to deal with those Wraiths in your deployment, because if they manage to charge and wrap something, they can fall back and charge, being OBSEC, that's huge. They can hardly intervene for 1 CP, that's huge. So, you need to shoot at them. In case you go second, being deployed around the walls and on the line still makes your opponent deploy back, because they don't know who's going first, but you move after the who goes first, so you can jump back behind the wall. So you need to make sure there's enough space, because the bases are big, so you have to be careful with it. So you can, always jump back and hide, or you can jump forward and hide behind the line of sight that normally wouldn't be available for your deployment. Or you can, in certain missions like direct assault, for example, you can, or vital intelligence, you can jump forward to start the game on the objective, maybe, if it's close enough. And then you control your command phase. So after that, you can go off that objective and it's yours. It just gives you the extra movement and throws the game off your opponent's plan, because that's something you didn't expect. This army does not only does play the mission really well, being all OBSEC and being resilient, but they also have a lot of attacks. Just think about Scorpion Destroyers unit. They've got 3 attacks each. So the Hyperphase Rib Blade, I think basically the big blade, has 3 attacks base, and that's it, but they're flat 3 damage. But if you've got the Threshers, which is the two blades, they've got an extra attack. So they've got 4 attacks base. So with 5 of them, you've got 4 guys with 4 attacks, that's 16, and 1 with 3 attacks, that's 19 attacks. Then next to Anrakir, they've got an extra attack. Then that small unit can get Mawa Bidon. With weapon skill 3, they'll be hitting on 2s, and they reroll 1s because they're destroyers. So if you charge something, their base strength 5, and the Hyperphase Blade is strength 7. But you've got Liminal Sheras who can give them +1 strength. So they are, then they are strength 6 and 8. And you've got a stratagem, which is called, I believe, Disruption Fields. So because they became core unit can get +1 strength. So, you can go up to strength 6 if Sheras rolls lucky, or you can just go 6 for a CP. Or if you rolled lucky, you can go to strength 7 on the base guy and strength 9 on the big blade. So that unit charges into a horde and just wipes a lot of models without taking much damage back, because they've got 3 wounds each. Illuminal Sheras can bring 1 back from 1 squad and then another 1 back from another squad, because he can do it twice. They reanimate. You have to roll 3 5s to reanimate, but if 3 of them die somehow, 1 should come back roughly on average. And that's huge. And on top of that, they have 3 up save. They're not like warriors, they're a bit tougher. And that's why Chronomancer is in the list. You can also give one of them 5 up invuln if you're facing high AP in combat or shooting. Shooting shouldn't be a problem, because usually they'll be hidden unless you're facing artillery. And that they're offensive. And then you've got Wraiths. You've got 4 up invuln and 3 up save. They also got 4 attacks each. Next to Anrakir now, they've got 5 attacks each. And then if you spend the CP for additional attack. I don't remember what it's called, but basically, oh no, that's only for Novok. If you play the Novok, you can give them additional attack, but you can give them extra strength for a CP for disruption fields. So from strength 6, they become strength 7. And then if Sheraz gets lucky, they become strength 8. So they can start wounding knights on force. It's a huge threat because you don't just stupidly advance them forward and sit in front of your opponent. You advance them forward super far, and if you cannot charge and wrap something, you just hide behind the walls and wait to play the mission. Little scarabs will sit on objectives, and your opponent has to clear you of the objectives, and then you come out and charge afterwards and destroy whatever shot or charge your scarabs. And then your opponent loses units really quickly, and you still have your backfield that advances forward and plays the mission all the time. The choice of secondaries becomes pretty simple because them all being OBSEC, Stranglehold becomes a very good option. I don't really have much shooting in this list, none at all basically, but I can shoot a unit of scarabs, a unit of rays if I need to, and I can control, I control 3 of mine, and then I can take away one of my opponent, and it's 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, and the unit under objective is something they have to deal with. So that's something you should be scoring 12 to 15 on every turn, especially if you go first, because there's usually an objective out in the open. So if you go first, you take your 3, which is half of I'm talking about 6 objective mission, but it's the same for 5 basically. So you control half the objectives, and your opponent is not on their 3rd objective, so you control more than them just by going first in a 6 objective mission. So you have a great position waiting for them, and they have to play into you, which is really, really helpful. The second secondary that I would probably pick almost every game is either banners or retrieve data. Banners on the 6th objective mission against an army that doesn't have enough reach is perfect because you've got 2 units of Cryptothralls, units of Immortals, your Scorpic Destroyers can raise banners, and Sheraz can raise banners, Chronomancer can raise banners, your characters can do it. So you raise 3 banners, and all of you being OBSEC usually stops your opponent taking it off you easily. And since you push forward so hard, it'll be hard for most people to jump behind you and take your objectives away. So that's the safe way to go most of the time, because Rod is kind of a safety net. I never take Rod expecting 12 points. I mostly take it expecting 8. Because it's very easy to block one of the quarters that you have to rod last. Because I only got 1 unit of flayed ones. That's only 1 deep strike that's rodding, and for the rest of it, I rely on my mobility. So if your opponent focuses on stopping you, you'll only gain 8, but that's 8 points that normally you would struggle to. So if they can stop your banners, stop you raising banners, and then taking the banners down, don't go for it. Just go for rod, get 8 points, and try to get more points somewhere else. You can always go for Code of Combat. Code of Combat is really easy. You have 2 barge lots, and in here you unfortunately only got 1, and he's combat focused. He has a ghost cannon, but it's it's tough. It's tough to do it. And you also got Anrak here, but again, he's mainly in combat and just buffing. But if you have nothing to take, I suppose you can take that and hope for like 9 points, because it's not that bad. You just have to finish off a unit. But instead, you usually focus on a mission objective to take it, because you can take Data Intercept. It's very good for you. You can take Direct Assault. It's very good for you. Minimize losses is not that great because you really throw everything forward. But the one on Battle Lines, Vital Ground, is not bad for you because you can play for those. So most of the time you have something to take, and if you don't, you can go for No Prisoners or Bring It Down, because that list does a lot of damage. Even Assassinate is not bad, because think about it. You run forward, and your units have like 30, 25 attacks each, and they have massive reach, hitting on 2s or 3s, with at least 2 damage each. So if your opponent doesn't have damage reduction, you're gonna be killing a lot. So the Kili one is pretty good for them. So there are a few tricks in the list also to make it more survivable and annoying for your opponent, which is my favorite thing. The main thing is Scorpic Destroyers. They're toughness 5. So most weapons are strength 4, 5, and 6. So the way to get around it is they've got a stratagem for 1 CP, which is called Whirling Onslaught. And it's in both range and combat. It's just in any phase you can use it, shooting whenever they're being targeted. And it's -1 to wound. So them being toughness 5, if they're being shot by like strength 4 weapons, they're gonna be wounded on 5s or 6s. So strength 4 wounds them on 5s, -1 to wound, wounds them on 6s. Then you've got Sheraz that can give them +1 toughness as one of his buffs. I think if you roll 2 on a d3, they get +1 toughness, so they become toughness 6. So then, even a knight shooting you with a Gatling cannon is wounding you on 5, so you get -1. So that's the way to help them survive, because they only get a 3-up save and maybe 5-up invuln. So that's that's really annoying for your opponent, because they have to deal with them. And on top of that, they have to deal with the rays that are just running up the board anyway. And then another one that's really annoying for your opponent is Enslaved Protectors. And that's for Canoptek units. So it's both Scarab Swarms and the Wraiths. For 1 CP, they can hurriedly intervene 3 inches. So, you just put them behind the wall next to the objective, and they can go through the wall because of their ability, even though, they're big. You take the objectives back because you're OPSEC. So if someone just gets on the objective and forgets about her intervention, you come out and take it. If someone falls back out of combat and doesn't have enough space to get far enough away, you can catch up to them. Like, they're just a constant threat, and they make your opponent think. And, in a tournament game, it's big because there's so many factors in the game that it's so easy to forget about her intervention, or think about it so much that you miss something else. And it's just about putting the pressure, because you go, okay, let's roll off. I'm going first. So I move forward, I move 20 inches, I charge something, and I'm there. And now you have to deal with them and fall back and do your own stuff. And then all the Scorpex are going forward. So if your opponent gets greedy and splits fire, I've killed 3 Wraiths and I've killed 3 Scorpex Destroyers, I'm going to raise 1 Scorpex Destroyer back. Maybe someone will reanimate. And there's still all the friendly deployment with everything catching up. So turn 2, my entire army is charging everything. So, you need to deal with it. And depending on the terrain, in our Glasshammer terrain, there's plenty of terrain, so we can move up the board. I've played in a few other events. There is usually enough terrain to hide. But even if there is not that much terrain, that means all my rays are just going forward full speed and charging everything and tagging, because 5 models have a huge footprint. So 5 models will probably spread like this, and then they can charge and tag everything in the line, because you don't have to declare a target. You can charge something in the middle and then pile and consolidate to just tag something on the side. Then there's a really cool thing with the Scarabs, because they're really annoying. People hate them because they're so small. You can hide behind basically my finger. They can hide behind everything. And they have 4 attacks each. Against the Horde, it's not bad. They're hitting on 4s. They're only strength 3, but they're hitting on 4s, and every hit on a 6 wounds automatically. But there's a stratagem called Self-Destruction. So for 1 CP, in a 5 phase, you just take 1 base off, and you roll. And it never worked for me in 5 games. I used it 5 times, and I always rolled a 1. But on the 2 to 5, they explode and deal 3 mortal wounds. They D3 mortal wounds, and that's huge. That's like a smite. And then if you roll a 6, it deals 3 mortal wounds. So they're like small, and you don't expect them to do anything, but they can actually take a few remaining wounds of something tough, or kill 1 model on 3 wounds. Like if you play 1000 Suns, which is a hard matchup, but you go into them and just spend 1 CP and 1 Terminator's dead, and the Terminators are really hard to kill. So it's something you can do, and it's really cool. Now let's talk about the characters. Illuminor Sheraz is basically, it was between him and 2 Technomancers, and depending on the list composition, I think 2 Technomancers might be better, but I wanted to try him because I've got 3 units of Scorpion Destroyers that can all be augmented, and I've got 3 units of Wraiths that can all be augmented. And on top of that, he can heal 2 units as with 2 Technomancers, and he's exactly the same point cost. And he's got D3 shots with strength 8, -4, D6 damage at 36 inches, so it's some shooting that I don't have. And then every time he kills a model, he can augment someone again. So, I took him because he can give someone +1 strength, +1 toughness, or +1 ballistic skill. Now, ballistic skill is useless for me, but whenever I roll toughness or strength, it can be a game changer. In some matchups, it really doesn't make a difference, but it's cool to have the option, and he's infantry, so he can run through the walls. So what you do is, Sheraz moves up behind, in the middle of your squads as much as he can, and then as you're taking damage, you make sure you stay within 6 inches of him, so in the command phase, he can raise 1 back. And ideally, if your opponent kills 2 from this squad and 2 from this squad, you raise 1 back up, you raise 1 back up. It's like a Monster Mega Apothecary. So I wanted to try him and see how it goes. And then I've got my Chronomancer. And Chronomancer, interestingly, has a Cryptek Arcana. I had some points spare, and I took Prismatic Obfuscatron. And that means he can never be targeted unless he's the closest model. And that's huge because when I played my triple Catan list, I realized quite often I didn't have anyone to put on the objective out in the open to be safe. But now you can just throw a Chronomancer out in the open. He doesn't have to be within 3 inches of anyone. As long as he's not the closest model, he can just sit there and be annoying and not being able to be targeted. And you can still stay within 9 inches of someone to give them invuln, or you might not even care about it. So it's great. On top of that, he's got Veil of Darkness. Because you need Veil, it's great. And you can pick up a core unit, core infantry unit, I'm pretty sure. But even if I think it's just core, not even infantry. So you can pick up a unit of Scorpic Destroyers. And you pick them up, go with them. And as long as you give them a Chronometron for 5-up invuln, they get reload charges as well. So you drop down and Scorpex charge off. And the problem is, the Chronomancer cannot really follow them. So Prismatic Obfuscatron helps him because he's going to be sour in a corner and having Scorpic Destroyers in front of him, he cannot be targeted. And then next turn, he can just fly off somewhere and be annoying for your opponent because he's still OBSEC, so he can land on the objectives and take them. And, you know, even if he gets shot and dies, for 1 CP, you can use Resurrection Protocols and bring him back on a 4+, which is great. And then Anrakir. Anrakir has, I bought him Implacable Conqueror to give him real charges, because the way I see it, you deploy forward. He doesn't mostly use before the game because he's Dynastic Agent, but everything in front of him does. And then he advances behind them, gives them plus on attack, gives them real charges, and makes it much more reliable for me to reach my opponent after they moved in their first turn. Wherever they're going second or first, I want him to be behind the wall somewhere mid-board with my other units, so then when they come out, I have much more power to kill stuff, because I don't have any shooting, so I have to make up for it in having more and more and more combat. And then my Barge Lord. I'm not a big fan of Voltaic stuff. I know people take it a lot. I decided to go for something more punchy. If you face something with Feel No Pains, it's really annoying, so I bought a War Scythe and a Void Reaper. So Void Reaper is flat 3 damage, it's -4, and he ignores abilities that ignore wounds, which is like Feel No Pains. He doesn't ignore any wounds, unfortunately. He cannot do Entropic Strike or anything, but ignoring Feel No Pains is huge. With flat 3 damage, every wound that goes through is just free. And he's only got 4 attacks. That's why I gave him Eternal Madness instead of Enduring Will, because I don't think he's going to be targeted, and even when he is, I've got Quantum Shielding to keep me safe. So I decided to go for full rerolls to wound, because he's going to fly forward with his 4 attacks, he's going to hit 4 or 3, and then I need to make sure that these 4 or 3 attacks go through to make my opponent take like 6 damage, hopefully. It's still not that great, but I like having the ability to use him with my other stuff to like plink off more wounds, because my Scorpic Destroyers, one guy in there always have the flat 3 damage weapon, the other ones have flat 2 damage weapons, and the combined power can kill really tough stuff. And then to help me even further, I've got Plasma Sight, one little small Plasma Sight for 15 points, because I thought to myself, if I'm going to be shooting off one Scorpic Destroyer unit, you can use it in the charge phase or in the beginning of the charge phase or the fight phase. So if they're within a few inches of, I think it's 6 inches of the Plasma Sight, on a 2, I roll a dice, and on a 1, one of the Scorpic Destroyers dies. But if I don't, they just get plus on attack. And even if I roll a 1, I still get plus on attack. So having 5, if 1 dies, if I lose 4 attacks, but I gain those 4 attacks back. And then Illuminal Shards can bring him back after, so I thought it's a risk worth taking. You know, having more attacks is what this army really needs, because they don't have any shooting. So tackling this list. Tackling this list is pretty straightforward, but not easy. So I wrote this list wanting it to be super resilient. And the only thing that suffers is their capability to do range damage. Because I could do Tesseract Arcs or Doomsday Arcs, whatever people use, but they're expensive. They're like 200 points each. And I was like, oh no, I'd rather have 5 Scorpic Destroyers or 5 Raves here and there and just throw it forward. So if you have screening, so if you have enough screen to stop me from getting into you, and you can consistently shoot me, especially if you have artillery, that's a great way to deal with them, because I rely on hiding behind walls, and I've got big footprints, so I need to create angles and hide behind walls, so I don't want to be shot by mobile armies that can shoot me, or artillery. And that's only if you have something to screen my Raves coming into you turn 1, because they will wrap you, they will tag you, and they will not allow you to shoot me. So, you know, if you don't allow me to get to you and you can target me without behind walls, that's great. And then another thing that hurts them a lot is what hurts every Necron army, it's Mortal Wounds. I'm tough, I reanimate, I've got invulns, I've got everything. I've got minus 1 to wound, but I've got nothing to stop me taking mortal wounds. And around Shiraz, you can, within 12 inches of him, you can peril on doubles, but you're probably going to be outside of 12 inches of him, and they're going to be doing mortal wounds. So, Braves are super tough. If you do a smite, 3 damage, smite 3 damage, smite 3 damage, smite 3 damage, it's 200 points of my army is just dying and dying and dying. So mortal wounds are great. And the damage reduction, if you can have damage reduction and mortal wounds in combat, because I don't really care about wound reduction and shooting, most of my army is damage 2. There's a few things of damage 3, but everything is damage 2. If you make me down to damage 1, I'm really struggling. I can clear a horde, I can clear elite units, but if you reduce damage, it's really tough. Like thinking about Telemon Dreadnoughts and all the hotness around them, I'll really struggle to kill the Telemons because they'll make minus 1 strength, they'll halve the damage, minus 1 damage. It's just so many shenanigans. If you can endure the damage from this list and you can out obsec my obsec, then you're good. It's a really good way to deal with them. Then you'd think that hordes can stop this army, but unit of Scorpex will come out with 30 attacks, sitting on 2s, drawing 1s, killing on 2s, and then so will do the Rays. So I do have a lot of attacks that can clear you off. And if you throw 200 models at me, I will slowly chew through them. Because usually if you have a horde with that many models, they don't do much to me because I'm all at least toughness 5. So you're gonna be wounding me on 5s or 6s if I use my stratagems. So hordes really struggle against me. But elite damage reducing units will chew through me, and I really don't like it. Surprisingly enough, Imperial Knights can be a tough matchup because Baby Knights are now 5 models each OBSEC, and I run in with 5 OBSEC models most of the time, like my Wraiths, and they cannot all fit on the objective if someone's on it usually, and you will at least kill 1 model back, so you'll out OBSEC me. And that's a struggle. I can kill a lot, but it all depends on the terrain and the skill of the opponent, because I'll never allow you to charge Scorpic Destroyers, but I'll throw my Wraiths at you, and if the Wraiths don't survive as much as I want, then my Scorpic Destroyers going in combat will get hit back really hard, and I rely on charging Scorpic Destroyers, killing something, and Wraiths screening them off, and then, that's just the cycle I need to go through until I kill like 10 Baby Knights, so I can just take the board. But other than that, it's really tough. Even Big Knights are not that easy for me to kill, unless I get proper augmentations and I can get enough strength to actually wound them very well. And I just have to play around them and take the board. But, if the table is not, even if it's obscuring, but it's not solid walls, as long as the knight touches the wall, like Magira or something, just starts shooting my stuff, it just disappears. Because I've got 6 units of 5 that are super tough. And 3 of them are Wraiths, they're very hard to kill. But Scorpic Destroyers without the buff, minus 1 to wound, and 5 up invulnerable from Chronometron, they're gonna die. So you can kill 2 units of 5 Scorpic Destroyers if you see them. So I rely on hiding. If you can see me and you can shoot, it really, really struggles. I think one of my toughest matchups is Death Guard, because they all reduce damage by 1. They're all tough. They're all elite. They've got probably 3 Plague Blast Crawlers that are artillery that can be flat 3 damage, which is insanely tough for me. And then they can have Contemptors, they can have Demon Princes, Terminators. They can have loads of zombies just swarming the board. That's the army I don't think I can physically deal with very well. So I'm interested to see how the game would go, but they reduce my damage to 1, and they're killing me out of line of sight, so I'm pressed to run at them. But if I run at them, I might really struggle in combat. So, yeah, if you want to beat this list, for sure, go with Death Guard. But otherwise, that list is very resilient, and I think it can do really well. So I'll test it out on the weekend in the tournament and see how it does.
So, as always, the final section is always modifications or adaptations. Now, I think the list is very good. From what David has just said about how it works and stuff, and there's only a few things that can tackle it, I don't think you would want to change too much about that because it seems very resilient. The only things that I can see straight off that maybe you could do is, I think with this amount of large bases, David's going to struggle a little bit with, hiding it all. I think he's gonna have a bit of a problem hiding it all. And because of that, I think you could switch some of the units with bigger bases out for smaller base-sized units, but they can also do a similar amount of damage and are just as survivable. So the 15 Wraiths, I think, are crucial to the way the list works. I don't think you can drop any of those. But the Scorpic Destroyers, I think you could look into dropping 2 units of them, have the one unit for that big punch, the big combat punch that they give off. But then you could drop, say, one of the characters like Illuminor Xerath. If you're not going to take 15 Scorpex, Xerath isn't that big. You could drop Illuminor Xerath and 2 units of Scorpex Destroyers and put in 3 units of 5 Lich Guard, because 3 units of 5 Lich Guard are really tough, and that also saves you the points to put in like a second unit of Flayed Ones to play the mission. So you're dropping Xerath and 10 Scorpex Destroyers to take 3 units of 5 Lich Guard and some Flayed Ones. And those 3 units of 5 Lich Guard, they can do actions because they're infantry. They can be hidden easier than the Scorpex. They can do a similar amount of damage to the Scorpex, but the thing to remember is the Lich Guard have a 2-up save base, a 1-up save if they're on cover, and a 4-up invulnerable save built in. So actually, I think they're a little bit harder to take down than the Scorpex Destroyers. And also, as they go down, they only have 2 runes per model. So when you roll reanimation rolls, they're more likely to come back. So that's the blaring change that kind of jumps out at me. The other thing you could do, if you like the way that this list is, like it's laid out, and you want to try something very, very similar, the one thing that I could recommend is maybe getting rid of that Plasmacite thing. I don't think it does that much. Get rid of the little Plasmacite and drop 1 unit of Scorpex Destroyers, or the Flayed Ones, depending on how many you want to add in, and bump the Scarab Swarms off. I think if you were to take 3 units of 9 Scarab Swarms, that would do a lot of damage. Now, it's like 270 points to, buff them all up. Maybe 3 units of 7 would serve the purpose just as well. And I think that is a point to the Scorpex. If you drop the Scorpex Destroyers, it gives you 175 points. And Scarab bases are 15 points each, I believe. And if that's the case, you could get 12 bases for that. So 4, 8, 12 in the 3 units. So you could have 3 units of 7 Scarab Swarms. And then that helps with how David was saying his army struggles against more wounds, psychic powers, and that kind of stuff. If you put 3 units of 7 Scarab Swarms out front, screening, holding objectives, protecting your wraiths and stuff, then that's a lot of wounds that people are going to go through with mortals before they can get through to your tough stuff. And you're only dropping 1 unit of Scorpex for it, You've still got 2 units of 5 Scorpex Destroyers and 3 units of 5 wraiths. So those are the modifications I would make, if any, So, yeah, that is a very cool army that David's come up with. I'm sure you'll be seeing these on battle reports very soon. And yeah, have a look at how David did the tournament this past weekend if you're still unsure about this list, because I think it's a good list. So yeah, guys, I hope you've enjoyed that roster review this week. If you watched the whole video and you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, notifications bell in the corner over there so you know each time we release one of these videos. And also, if you enjoy this content and you would like more exclusive content, discount off our web store, or if you just love what we do and you would like to support the channel, then please head over to glasshammergaming.co.uk and join the elite. Until next week, when we'll be back with another roster review, guys, stay safe, play loads of Warhammer 40k, and try out loads of your own new ideas with the New Balance data state. See you later, guys. Take care.